Okay, hey guys, what is up? So today we are here with another episode of Life Stories, and in the back we have a 50-3 Black Ops 1 domination that I got quite some time ago. I'm not sure what the other gameplay will be, because this story might take a while, but... oh, excuse me, burp there. But alright, so basically, this life story could actually have quite the amount of names. It could go under my first time being arrested, my first charge, and just for those of you that are curious, when you get charged, you don't actually get charged money. Just to put that out there, because a lot of people think you do. No, when you get charged, you just go to jail and stuff. Well, not even that, you just have a court date to go settle the charge and see what the consequence of it is. Alright, or it could go under my first suspension, because yes, my first suspension was surprisingly in grade 10, even though I've done a lot of stupid shit throughout my school days. It could go under a lot of things, almost getting expelled, and that's all that I can think of right now. I bet I could think of like at least 20 different names put under there. But alright, so let's get into it. The day, let's go, today is December 11th, so let's go back about a little over a month, back to November 8th, which is the day that this shit all happened. Oh, or it could also go into my first time going to jail. Yeah, that too. Alright. So like I said, back to November the 8th. Alright, so just a regular school day. Alright, so I'm in health class, which is my second period class. We're in the health room. We're all just messing around because no one honestly cares about health. It's just a class that everyone sort of does because health and gym are in the same class. So it's sort of like, you know, I'm gonna take gym just because health is easy and you only have to do it 4 weeks throughout the whole year. And yeah, alright, so there's me and 4 other people at this table who I'm friends with 3 of the 4. The one I'm just sort of acquaintances with, I guess you could say, and me and him still sort of talk and shit, but we aren't actually friends, like we've never hung out or anything. And then we have Guy 1, who the story basically revolves around. We have myself, Brody. We have Guy 2 being one of my really good friends, and Guy 3 being another one of my really good friends. So, Guy 1's at the table, and it's just a rectangular table, so 2 on the long ends, and then 1 on each of the actual ends of the table. So I guess that would be the width of the table, and then so there's 4 in total in the length. Wait. Hold up a second. Was there just 4 of us? Alright, whatever. There's 5 or 4 of us. Basically, we're at a rectangular table, so you can imagine how the seating would work. And we're all just sitting there messing around. No, scratch that. There was 6 of us. That's the exact number, 6. Because there was 2 on the lengthy ends, I guess. I don't know what you'd want to call it. And then 4 of us on the width. So, which would be the ends of the table. God, alright, you guys know what I mean. Alright, I'm gonna stop going into detail about this because I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore. But alright, so I have a knife on me, and in Canada, you're legally allowed to have a knife on you, no matter where you are, as long as the blade is under 8 inches. Which this blade, I think it was 8 inches. Maybe, I'm not too sure about the exact length. It was basically just a knife that I stole. Alright, so we're all just chilling at this table. The one guy knows, Guy 1 knows I have a knife on me. All my friends know I have a knife. So I hand off the knife to Guy 2, which is one of my really close friends, like one of my best friends. And he just wants to see it, and he didn't take his pills today, so he's going off. Everyone thought he was gonna stab someone. He was like going crazy because he didn't take his ADHD pills and shit. So he's sitting there just threatening to stab people just as a joke. Like, the whole thing was just a joke. And then we're all just messing around. Oh yeah, and that's my last death of the game. I mean, there's not too much more time left in the game, but yeah. Alright, so then we're all just sitting there just messing around. Guy 1 is starting to get bored, so Guy 3 doesn't come into the story until later on. And then, yeah, so Guy 1 is starting to get bored of just messing around, so he wants to actually do his work. And I was just like, fuck it, I don't want to do my work. It's health, I don't really give a shit. I have a, like, 85 in my gym class, so I'm gonna pass no matter what. Like, and even if I was to fail the exam, I'd still pass. So then, Guy 1's doing his work, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be an asshole. So I started poking him with my pencil and stuff, hitting his knuckles with my pencil, just being a dickhead and messing around. Like, what the whole idea of health is. Well, not really, but for the people that are in health, it is. So then, we're in class, I'm pissing him off and stuff, I'm poking his fingers, poking him with the eraser into my pencil, hitting his knuckles with my eraser, the eraser into my pencil, and I guess apparently that hurts, which I mean, it sort of does, but yeah. And then, he's getting pissed off, telling me to fuck off and stuff, so I'm sitting there like, alright, whatever. So he just gets so pissed off to the point where the teacher comes over because he's getting so loud. And then the teacher's like, what's going on? And he's like, Brody keeps on hitting me in the fingers with his pencil. And he's pissing me off. And I told him to fuck off. And he won't fuck off. And the teacher's like, do you really need to use that type of language towards me? And he's like, no, but I told him to fuck off and he won't fuck off. And she's like, well, wanna know what? Using that type of language towards me. So I'm not gonna do anything. And then he's like, oh, and Brody also has a knife on him. And I'm sitting there like, bitch, you're allowed to have a knife on you. Like, are you retarded? And then he's like, he's just sitting there just still arguing back and forth with the teacher. And then he's like, what? Oh yeah, and then the bell rings. The teacher didn't do anything. So the bell rings, we're all just, well, the bell's about to ring, there's like a minute or two left, and we're all just sort of standing there waiting at the door, and then Guy 3 comes into the store now, and he goes and he pulls out his switchblade, which switchblades are illegal in Canada, which I obviously live in Canada, so yeah. So he's just sitting there just messing around with other people, and everyone knows that we're all just messing around. He's like, I want me to stab you, with his blade out and stuff, switching it out, because it obviously looked cool. And then the bell rings, everyone knows that he's just joking around. So that's the end of the first gameplay right there, just to point that out. And then we go on to lunch. I go down to the CAF, which is where everyone hangs out, where all the grade 10s hang out. Since grade 9, we just sort of took that place over. And then, so we're all just standing there, just talking and stuff. So I see Guy 1. I walk up to him. I'm like, hey man, you still pissed off? Like, everyone was just joking around. And he's like, oh, no, fuck you, man. I don't want to talk to you. Get away from me. So I'm like, alright, whatever. Have fun being a dumbass, you know, whatever. So me and a couple of my buddies, we go get pizza and stuff because CAF is ridiculously overpriced. And there's not the best of food. I mean, it's a public school, so it's a lot better than Catholic, but yeah. So then, I come back. I'm on my way up to my third period class, which is science, and I'm on the 4th floor, and his foods class is on the 4th floor. So I go, and I'm just walking. I end up seeing, I'm like, oh, hey, Guy 1. You still pissed? And he's like, oh yeah, you know I'm fucking still pissed. Why are you even talking to me? And I'm like, man, it was just a joke, like, calm down. And then he's still just sitting there like, just bitching at me and stuff, and I walk into his foods class with him and stuff, because teachers are very lenient, they don't really care. The second bell didn't go off for you to actually have to be in class. And then he's like, I'm like, like, why are you still pissed? It was a joke. If I was actually gonna stab you, I would have done it, because I'm that type of guy. I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna do it, and then not go and do it, unless it's gonna be like I'm gonna blow up a bank or Canada or something. I'm obviously not gonna do it, because I physically am not capable of doing that. Cat, shut up before I break your neck. I'll explain about the cat in a different commentary, I guess. But yeah, so he's sitting there, he's still sort of bitching at me, and then I'm like, I give him a hug just as a joke. I'm like, Maddie, shit, I mean, guy one. Oh, whoops, I accidentally said his name. Well, not really, that was a nickname for him, it's not his actual name. So I give him a hug, and then I'm like, man, calm down. And he's like, oh, I'm not gonna fucking calm down. He looks at his teacher, he's like, he has a knife and he threatened to stab me. And I look at him, I'm like, are you fucking retarded, man? And he's like, no. He looks at his teacher, and this is in front of like his whole food class. He's like, he has a knife on him right now and he threatened to stab me in hell. I look at him, I'm like, you're clearly fucking retarded, dumbass. And then he's like, oh, no, he has a knife, he honestly does, and he threatened to stab me. I'm like, bitch, you're stupid, shut the fuck up. And then he's still just sitting there going on. I'm like, whatever, keep on thinking that, you fucking retard. And then I just walk out of the class and go to class, so I'm not marked down as late, sort of thing, since I'm late like all the time for class, because I don't really care. So it's the next day, I go into health, he's just sitting at a different class and stuff, he's avoiding me, and I'm like, alright, whatever, nothing out of the ordinary, still having my knife on me, which is no big deal. And then, so nothing happens that day, he's just at a different table. I'm like, alright, whatever, he's still pissed off, no big deal. So then nothing happens that day, nothing out of the ordinary. And then, so if I go back the next day, and this would be day before Halloween, no, not November 8th. This whole story would have happened the 27th. The 27th is when it would have happened. And then, this will be quite a long story, by the way. And then, it is the 29th, the day before Halloween. And I'm at school, I'm in health, and I'm like, alright, whatever, just regular day. And when I woke up that morning, I was looking at my knife as it was on my desk, and I was like, I don't know, should I bring it? Like, there's no exact reason for it, so I'm just like, whatever, fuck it. I've been bringing it to school with me for the past 3 weeks. It's not a big deal. I've had it on me this whole time, so like, what's gonna be so different about today? So this is when all the shit just goes downhill. So basically, he's not there. We're not going to class. I'm like, alright, he's not there, whatever, must have missed his bus, or his parents let him stay home. So then my vice principal walks in. I'm like, fuck. Like, that was my immediate reaction. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This bitch snitched on me. This guy actually snitched on me. I'm gonna kick his fucking ass. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. And then she walks in, and I guess she used to be a health teacher. She's like, smelling the room. She's like, oh, still smells weird from when I used to teach in here. I mean, it's probably because her pussy stank, but you know. And then my teacher, he's like, oh yeah, this smell has just still stayed in here. It's never left. And then she's like, oh, alright, can I get Brody? And I'm like, shit. And then I'm like, fuck, what do I do with my knife? I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh, shit. I'm looking at my friends, and the two of them that would be closest to hand off to, they're a distance away from me. So you would clearly be able to see that I'm handing something off. And I'm just like, shit. What do I do? So I'm just sitting there, I don't know. And then I go and I feel under the desk, and I feel a lip on the table. But by the time I feel the lip, I don't have the opportunity to take the knife out of my pocket and put it in the lip. And I didn't even know if it was going to hold in the lip, so the knife may have fallen. So I'm like, oh shit, and then she's right over beside me. She's like, alright, I'm going to take Brody for a second. I'm like, fuck. It all just went downhill from there. So I'm just walking in the office. I pack up my bag and stuff. I'm just walking in the office. I'm like, so what's up? She's like, oh, we just need to talk to you about some stuff. me obviously knowing what she's talking about, I'm like, that bitch, he snitched on me. God damn it, I'm gonna kick the shit out of him. And then I'm like, alright, so we go in the VP's office. She's like, oh, so I heard you have a knife on you. I'm like, I might. And then she's like, alright, well, I'm gonna search you unless you just, you know, decide to hand me the knife. And I'm like, well, I'll just make the decision myself. I'm like, there you go. She asked me all these questions. She's like, did your mom know you had the knife? And I'm like, she knew I had a pocket knife because, you know, like, everyone has one. So I don't know. I don't know if she know about this knife. And then they just asked me all this stuff. And then I also have a grinder in my bag and my pipe in my bag. And both of it being mine. Luckily, I don't think I had weed in the grinder. But if I would have been quite pissed off. And then, they're like, okay, we're gonna search your bag. And I'm like, really, you're gonna take my knife and you're gonna search my bag and you're gonna steal my pipe and my grinder. You guys are just assholes. And then they're searching my bag and stuff, and then they see clone. They're like, oh, not thinking anything about it. And they see my pipe and my grinder, and they're like, oh, what's this? I'm like, I don't know, not mine. And I'm just sitting there pulling shit on my ass. I'm like, I don't know. I haven't had my backpack for like the past week. I've just sort of been coming to school with my binder and leave my binder at my friend's locker. And then she's like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then at this point, the next VP walks in. He's like, they exchanged because I guess the other VP had something to do. And then she's just sitting there. Well, the other VP comes. He's sitting there. He's like, oh, so what's this? And I'm like, I don't know. It's not mine. I don't own it. I've never bought that type of stuff. It's like, oh, so you don't smoke weed? And I'm like, no, it's not mine. I don't know why it would be in there. I left it at my friend's house. And then he's like, oh, and who's your friend? I'm like, names don't matter, but he's one of my buddies from Assumption. And then the VP still just sitting there looking at me. I'm like, I promise you it isn't mine. And then in the end, he still didn't just keep on questioning me. And the other VP walks back and she sits back down. And she's like, oh, so why do you have this clone in your bag? I'm like, I don't know. Ever think about gym class? And she's like, well, you don't need to be like that, but I don't know. I think you're using this clone to cover up the scent for when you get high and come to school. And I'm like, bitch, are you retarded? I got gym class. I'm not gonna have my ass walking around the school all sweaty. Like, are you serious? Use your brain, honestly. If you have gym class, I'm not gonna be sweaty walking around school smelling like BO, dumbass. Like, honestly, think logically. If I have gym, yes, I'm gonna bring deodorant and cologne. I bring my bag with me everywhere. Bitch, I'm gonna have deodorant and cologne in my bag. So, like, why are you making the cologne such a big deal? And then basically, they just bring me out. Actually, no, I'm still in the VP's office. They're just talking. I'm like, I'm gonna get suspended for this shit, aren't I? And then they're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, alright, whatever. First suspension. I don't really care. And then they're like, alright, can you just sit in the office? So I'm sitting in the attendance office. I was in there for like 4 hours. They're like, we can't get a hold of anyone. I'm like, I'll give you some numbers if you have to just give me my cell phone back, because they wanted my cell phone so I couldn't talk to people. And then I'm just listening for a second and thinking, what happened from there? Oh yeah, so I gave them some numbers. I'm like, whatever, just call my parents, let them know I'm being suspended. I don't give a shit. And then they call my parents. They're like, oh yeah, your son had a knife on him, and he also had drug paraphernalia, and he threatened to stab a kid. And I'm like, my mom comes out. I'm like, what'd they even say? They're like, oh, well, they said that you threatened to stab a kid. I'm like, this motherfucker, I'm gonna break his neck. Like, oh my god. And then the cop comes in, and I'm like, shit. Like, they're bringing cops in this now? So I'm still just sitting there talking to my mom, like, so she called her friend who's a cop, and then they go and they're like, oh yeah, you guys can go in this room and talk for more privacy, since there was other people in the office. And I swear to God, half my school, which is like 1,400 people, half my school already knew about everything that was happening. I'm sitting there like, how? Like, I come home, well, I'm not gonna skip ahead. So I'm just sitting there talking to my mom. She's like, her friend was telling her everything, and then basically her friend told her, Brody's fucked. So I'm like, oh shit, what do I do now? So me and her just sitting there talking, and the cop comes in. He's like, alright, well, I'm gonna have to take you in. And I'm like, god damn it. He's like, I'm just gonna take you in finish all the paperwork, and if your mom, and I'll call your mom and she'll come get you whenever she chooses to come to the police station. I'm like, ugh. So he handcuffs me, tells me all my Miranda rights, and then, well, no, he didn't handcuff me yet. He walked me out of the school first, just because my mom was like, can you please just walk him out of the school to your cruiser, and then cuff him, because, you know, cell phones exist, Facebook exists, I don't want this going around the whole school. And as I'm walking out, I see one of my buddies. I'm like, oh, hey man, and he's like, he's just shaking his head no, and I'm like, I know, I'll see you in a bit. I don't know how long I'm suspended for, I might get expelled. He's just still sitting there. He's like, alright, bye Brody. I'm like, I'll miss you Rosie, because that's his nickname. And then so I get to the car, I'm arrested, I'm talking to the cop and stuff. I'm like, so what's gonna go on, what's gonna happen? He's like, oh, well, we're just gonna keep you locked up until I finish all this paperwork after dealing with an issue at another high school, since he was also their school cop, I guess. And he's like, your issue was just more important because it had a knife involved. I'm like, alright, whatever. So I'm like, how can I sit comfortably in this car? Because handcuffs, if you don't know, they're actually like a hexagon, so you can't fight them without it really hurting. And I was like, H was just starting to kill. I couldn't put any pressure on my wrist or anything, and he just showed me, so I sat that way. It honestly wasn't too helpful. There was still too much pressure being put on my arm, and that shit was starting to kill. So then I'm like, alright, so we get to the police station. They go into the garage, they lock the garage, they turn on these cameras and shit, they tell me to look away, they put in this pin, they search me, then they actually bring me in, then they search me again on camera, take all my stuff, and it was awkward. The cop's like, alright, so when I take your belt off, are your pants gonna fall off? And I'm like, I don't think so. And it's weird to have another man take your belt off. It is very awkward. I apologize if you're okay with that type of stuff, but for myself, it was very awkward having another guy take my belt off. And then they uncuffed me and stuff, told me to stand a certain way, took a metal detector, scanned me like 500 times, took me to the cell, locked me up, and that was about it for like 3 to 5 hours, I would say. So I had my contacts in, actually, not my glasses. I wear contacts and glasses, so I had my contacts in. I'm just sitting there bored out of my mind. So I was just so bored to the point that I actually counted every brick in the cell, aside from the ones that I couldn't see, which were behind the bed. And in jail, the beds are literally just mats that you'd use for gym class, just a little thin foam mat, which are very uncomfortable. I mean, the thin ones are a little thicker, like the ones that you would have up on the wall. So that's basically your bed. And I was just looking at all the names engraved in the wall and stuff, and on the bars and all this stuff. And then, yeah, so I fall asleep, which, I mean, it's very bad to fall asleep with contacts in. Like, I was so bored that I actually fell asleep. I thought I was gonna die of boredom while I was locked up. And then I wake up, I'm like, oh shit, if I'm gonna fall back asleep, I'm taking out my contacts. So I took them out, threw them in the toilet. Oh, 1 second. So I took my contacts out because you can get eye infections and stuff, and I just fell back asleep. I mean, they probably don't clean the beds off or anything, but, you know, it's whatever. And then I wake up, cop comes and gets me, gives me my stuff. I walk out after I signing a bunch of paper, and for me to walk out, it took like 10 minutes. They're like, alright, they're walking me down the hall. I'm just looking around to see if anyone else is locked up or whatever, and I'm just looking around like, whatever, I just want to go home, I'm bored. And then they took me through like 5 heavily ass secured doors that were like electrically locked, that you had to put a password in and stuff, and like they were so secure about the shit that they had me face the wall like 4 times. It was some crazy shit. And then my mom picked me up, so I was just on a suspension, just a small suspension. It was actually a 20-day suspension, which it was at 20 days, and then they decide what they're gonna do with me, whether they're gonna expel me, suspend me, or whatever they're gonna do. And then so it's about a week, give or take. I go into school because they want to have a meeting, and then they have a meeting about seeing if I'm gonna be expelled or not. So I'm just like, I don't want to be expelled. I like my school and shit. So I'm sort of hoping to stay. And then at this point, I still didn't really have my phone because my mom had it and I was in shit. So yeah, so we go in the meeting. I'm the type of person that when I talk, it sounds like I really don't care. But I mean, I don't know, I just sort of don't put any enthusiasm or anything in my voice. Unless it's for commentary, because I know that having adult voice in a commentary can be quite boring. But when I'm actually talking to people, and I'm talking, I sort of talk like, yeah, I know. It was a stupid mistake, dumb decision. Like, I really don't care. And just how I look and stuff and how I dress, it just sort of seems like I don't care. Like, baggy sweater, baggy shirt, beanie, and somewhat baggy pants. Like, I just dress as if I don't really care. But I don't dress to the point where I look grubby. So I'm sitting there, and the only reason I actually didn't get expelled is because my mom pleaded for me, and she pleaded to the point where she cried. So they felt as if I was gonna get expelled, it was gonna tear my family apart. Which I mean, it probably would have brought my family closer together and brought me apart from everyone else. So they decide I'm not expelled. I'm like, alright, sweet. So mom gives my phone back just to communicate with my dad and stuff since they aren't together. And I'm talking to my one friend, Guy 3, and he's like, oh yeah man, I got brought into the office and I got searched on Halloween. And the second I saw that you were getting suspended, well, the second I saw the VP walk in and you leave the office and you leave to go to the office after class, after the bell rang, I walked right out to my buddy, we'll call him Guy 4, and I gave him my grinder, my weed, my pipe, my papers, and all this stuff. I'm like, holy shit, man. And he's like, but I kept my stash can on me, which is stash can is just like a can that you turn, and then it's like a big Arizona can. You can get them in small cans as well, but his was an Arizona can. And then he still had a second grinder in there, he still had weed in there, he still had another pipe in there, he had a bunch of papers. So they search him and stuff. He obviously handed his knife off, his switchblade off to his buddy, because I guess Guy 1 also snitched on him. And then they brought out his stash can. They just looked at it, it's in Arizona, they saw it wasn't open, so they shook it, didn't hear anything, and just, because it was heavy enough to feel like it was full. So then they just sort of shook it and didn't think anything of it, and he was just laughing his ass off. And then, so basically, get this, my VP goes and tells his mom that his friends, being me, except obviously using my name, have been experimenting with drugs. When he told me that, I laughed my ass off. Really, you're gonna say experimenting with drugs? Honestly, I'm not sitting there doing meth, coke, heroin, molly, ecstasy, shrooms. No, it was just weed. It's not like I'm going and experimenting with every drug known to man. So I just found that to be quite funny. He laughed about it too. And then they were showing his mom pictures of grinders and stuff. Like, do you know what this is? And she was just like, oh no, I don't. What is it? She's just playing dumb and stuff. And then after that, they just decided I was suspended for 20 school days. Obviously, weekends not included, which would have been nice if weekends would have been included, but sadly they aren't. So it was a long 20 days. I went to this program called Jella, and my mom just decided I wasn't allowed to use my computer or go on my PS3 until my suspension was done, which was completely understandable. So then I'm just at Jella. I had to do this whole counseling thing because I guess they would leave a letter for when I have court to let them know that I went through that and stuff. I had to do counseling and I caught up on schoolwork there, and then it was that whole type of thing. So yeah, this video, this will probably go up on the 13th, which will be a Saturday. And then, so yeah, this commentary will probably go up then. But yeah, that was basically my first time being arrested, my first time going to jail, my first suspension, almost getting expelled. What else could it be? First time I don't know. There's too many names for it. But yeah, guys, I hope that sums up everything, and I hope you guys are all filled in on why I was away. The people at Jella told me, oh yeah, if anyone asks about your suspension or where you were, just tell them it doesn't matter. But I mean, you guys are like a second family for me. Well, another family for me. I care about my subscribers, I care about you guys, so I had to fill you in eventually. I couldn't just hide it from you guys. So yeah, basically, I will leave you guys with this. If you're gonna joke around and threaten to stab someone, don't do it. Or if you do, make sure they're very close friends and they understand that you're joking and that you aren't actually gonna stab them. Because I mean, there is some dumbasses in this world that will think you're being 100% serious when you aren't. But yeah, I'll just let you guys know how court goes when I have that. I have that on the 17th, which is the 11th right now, so I have 6 days until court. Which, I mean, I'll let you know how things go. Hopefully things go for the better, and hopefully I'm not like going to jail for 3 months, because I actually researched on what would happen and like what could potentially happen. And I guess if you go, it's either you go to jail for like, this is for adults, by the way, I'm only 15, so myself, it obviously wouldn't be as bad, but for adults, it's like 4 months of jail or a $5,000 fine, which I mean, I honestly don't see how they can fine you to be equivalent to going to jail. Oh yeah, you don't want to go to jail? Give me $5 grand out of your pocket. I don't know, it's just stupid how that type of stuff works. But yeah, I'll let you guys know how court goes and all that stuff. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this life story. I don't know what episode this is, but I'm hoping for this video to do quite well, because this was a very long story, like 33 minutes to be probably exact. I don't know, it's only at like 32 right now, but I'll call the outro right here. So as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed this life story. This one was probably the craziest story yet. I mean, I still have a lot of other stories that I can go into detail about and talk about, but yeah. Alright, the actual outro now. Alright guys, so as always, I hope you enjoyed. So don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you're new. And if you are, I hope to see you guys next time. And if I don't, just know that you're breaking a young man's heart. Alright, but I will see you guys later. Again, hope you enjoyed. Alright, bye guys.